With the NBA draft right around the corner, the rumor mills continue to heat up around the Chicago Bulls, as a recent rumor report has the Chicago Bulls possibly moving Zach LaVine over to the Detroit Pistons, and also, too, it has Alex Caruso possibly moving over to the Memphis Grizzlies. In today's video, we're going to be talking about these trade rumors around these players and if this is even a good move for the Chicago Bulls, or what are they trying to do heading into the NBA draft. This is Rico Greenhowe, and this is another episode of Bulls Digest. And before we jump into it, want to let you guys know that 75.9% of you guys that watch the videos are not subscribed to the channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with the latest news and happenings around your Chicago Bulls. And without further ado, guys, let's jump into the first topic of the day here, which is the Bulls trade LaVine to the Pistons, or do they? All right, guys, so a recent report or rumor has come up that the Chicago Bulls would be interested in moving LaVine over to Detroit. And I think that this is no new news in the sense that we know that the Detroit Pistons, I believe, have the salary to take on Zach LaVine. And I believe that they definitely want a guy like Zach LaVine over there, considering that they have a lot of young pieces and they don't have a lot of veteran leadership. So, for LaVine to get over there, he's still going to be a focal point. Perhaps he has a chance to lead the young core here and help Detroit ride the ship, as they have had quite the bit of struggles here, to say the least, in their season. But I found this interesting. This comes over from, I believe it's Will Godlett, who is on the CHGO podcast, and he also writes over there as well, does wonderful pieces. But he suggests a very interesting trade for this one, guys. And so what he's saying is that the Chicago Bulls essentially would move Zach LaVine and the 11th pick for Isaiah Stewart and the 5th overall pick here. All right. And so what he's trying to say here is that essentially what is going to happen is that maybe Donovan Clegan is going to fall to that spot. Okay, I did look at a mock draft that has Clegan, I believe, falling to 5th in the draft. And if we were not to get Clegan, then we would go ahead and at least address the backup center position, or maybe even our starter position with Isaiah Stewart. And so he's saying that the Detroit Pistons have a lot of forwards right now, and obviously they cannot be played at the same time. And this makes sense for the Pistons. And they're also essentially getting Zach LaVine with the 11th pick here, and who knows where they go from there. But for us, it addresses the need to go ahead and perhaps move up and get a player that we've been looking at, and we also would be able to address the backup center position. So for this deal, this is interesting. All right. So if you're looking at Donovan Clegan, and if you're lucky to get Donovan Clegan at that point, because I've seen that there are some mocks that still have Donovan Clegan at 3rd. Well, then you go ahead and congratulations, you've addressed your center position, because there is a strong belief that Andre Drummond is probably not going to re-sign with this. So, with Isaiah Stewart on the roster, that takes care of that. Then you can go out there and get Clegan. Essentially, you would either have your starting big and you can try to find a trade for Vooch. At this point in time, you might be getting rid of him for a bag of chips. But hey, you do have the option now, and you have your centers taken care of. What we would do to address the wing position, that's going to be interesting. I mean, we still could try to do something there in free agency, or, maybe we're going to make another deal here at draft night and try to acquire another pick. But that would really be the only thinking that I could say would be logical for the Chicago Bulls. Do I like this deal? It does get us out of Zach LaVine in this awkward situation. And I mean, it's awkward in the sense that both sides, with LaVine and the team have agreed that, they're going to try to find a solution for this and move Zach LaVine to a new home. And Chicago obviously wants to get that type of financial relief, or they want to try to get some expiring contracts or some kind of assets back. So, this ends that awkward situation, and I think that this is going to allow players like Kobe White, Desumu, all right, those guys to continue to grow a little bit more with us, guys. And so, really that's the only thing that I could think would be good about this. And I think that Detroit can obviously take on the brunt of the salary, which means we don't have to worry about taking something necessarily back in those regards. And so that's the only thing that I think that checks the boxes on and why I would like it. Now, if I'm looking at the Detroit Pistons, I'm asking, is Jaden Ivey available? All right, because I like him a lot. I've been hearing that, possibly he would be maybe a trade piece, but he's definitely a guy that I'm intrigued with. And I think he's a guy that if he can get out of Cade Cunningham's shadow, I feel like this is a guy that has a lot of tremendous upside. And so that would be my only thing, I think, with the Chicago Bulls. And yes, before we get roasted in the comments, I know he's another guard, but with the uncertainty around Lonzo Ball, and I continue to keep saying this, guys, we have to be proactive. And I think that is a proactive move if we were to somehow acquire Jaden Ivey in the deal from the Detroit Pistons. I think that would help further us, guys. And so that leads me to the next part of the video here, and that is this Alex Caruso madness. And that's what I'm going to call this, guys, just Alex Caruso madness. So Bulls trade Caruso to Rockets or the Grizzlies. All right. And so look, this is recapping essentially what we had talked about before with the fact that the Bulls would be interested in possibly moving up to 3. I think if you're going to nab Clegan, then that makes a whole bunch of sense if that mock draft were to stay true. But this means that you would send Caruso over, and I believe it was for the 3rd pick in the draft. And I think we were possibly acquiring Tyree Eason. I believe that was coming over as well. Sorry if I butchered his name, but didn't mean to. But Eason would be coming over. And then also, too, I suggested that we would look at Cam Whitmore. All right. And so Cam Whitmore was a wing player who was very good in last year's Summer League. I believe he won the MVP. He's already averaging 12 points a game and really showing some real signs, guys. And guess what? He played at Villanova. And these Villanova players, they can absolutely play. He reminds you a bit of Miguel Bridges at times. And this guy can absolutely score the basketball, and he has great length and athleticism. So I definitely would love to have him in the deal. So I mean, it would pain me to give up Alex Caruso at this point in time. I know teams are going to be interested because Alex Caruso does everything for you. He affects winning. And personally, I don't want to lose Alex Caruso because I feel like he's had a huge impact on our young players along with DeMar DeRozan. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but those guys have been incredible for us. And look, DeMar DeRozan has played in 90% of his games. He's been available. He's impacted winning. He's went out there. He's scored. He's been perfect for the guys in the clutch, and he's not afraid to go ahead and defer to the younger guys as well and help them in their growth. That's why I love him coming back. Hopefully it's on a team-friendly deal. But with Caruso, man, I mean, I could see us doing it for the Rockets if we're moving up for Clegan. But I'm not sure it makes sense if we're moving up with Memphis at 9, because now we're saying, I think that they were slated to get Ware, the center out of Indiana. And I'm saying to myself, like, I mean, do we want to give up a defender to get Ware at that point in time? And that's where it becomes a little bit interesting to me, especially when we've got guys like Bazilis who might be coming back to us. And there's a chance, too, that even Ware might even slip down to us as well, guys. I mean, if we were even thinking that type of move. And Edey, I believe, is already slated. I saw one mock draft where he's slated to go 12, which is the pick right after ours. And so, 3 of the players that we're looking at are looking to slide right into our lap. And even if we're looking at Devin Carter, the young guard that reminds us a bit of Derek White and also to Jalen Brunson, he's going to slide down to us, guys. And so that's where this begins to look a bit like, you know what I'm talking about, that patented merry-go-round here with what are the Bulls thinking? what are the Bulls thinking? And then on top of that, man, Caruso was listed in a possible trade with the Sixers as well. And we talked a little bit about that too, where it would be, we would, I believe, still get the 11th pick, and then we would be getting the 16th pick from the Sixers. And I saw, a Sixers fan, they liked it because, hey, they're going to get the defense, and it makes a whole bunch of sense if you want that. But I just don't see the Sixers realistically wanting Caruso like that, because their president of basketball operations, he loves to get players that score the basketball. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, looking back at what he's done with Harden and the way he constructed the Rockets, defense wasn't it for them. They wanted to score the ball, and they wanted to try to outscore you. And so that's what I think that he still believes he can do with the Sixers. Like, I don't think that he thinks about defensively stopping teams. He wants to outscore teams. And that's why I'm like, I don't know if the Caruso deal makes a whole bunch of sense to me with the Sixers. And I'll say this, right, with that type of deal and what we're hearing, this is what I'm talking about before, and I mean, again, people might not like it, but I'm saying the Sixers are in a situation where they're going to be desperate, and I think that because we have held on to LaVine, because they are going to strike out with Brandon Ingram, and because they are going to strike out with Paul George, I think that LaVine is certainly going to be an option for them, and if they're super desperate, maybe they're going to try to get Caruso over there as well. And so I think, again, we have a chance to get some assets from the Philadelphia 76ers, who have gone on record and said that they want to maximize the prime years of Embiid. And I believe, their president of basketball operations wants to build somewhat another super team. Right. I read something that he wants to build something like the Golden State Dynasty. And so to do that, you're going to have to go out and get players that can score. And if you strike out with Paul George, you strike out with Brandon Ingram, guess what? The Chicago Bulls are waiting for you. So as terrible as the Chicago Bulls have been with holding on to Zach LaVine and should have had to trade him a long time ago, it might actually work out in a super weird way, guys. So anyway, I know this is super long, but we have to ask the questions, guys. I mean, what are we doing here? Because if we are looking to trade up, there's only one player that makes sense for me, and that is going to be Clegan. I just don't know if we are going to trade up for Bazilis. I love a lot of stuff that Bazilis does, but it scares the heck out of me that we are getting a big, guys, that he is only shooting 27%, and he shot 40% in high school, and that line is going to get deeper in the NBA, guys. And so, and with a guy like Edey, here's a guy that could fall right to us. Devin Carter can fall right to us. Like, what are we thinking in moving up in this draft? Like, what could the Chicago Bulls possibly see that they have to get? Because it doesn't make sense if you're just moving up to 5. It doesn't make sense if you're moving up to 9. It only makes sense to me if you are going to move up to 3, guys. And so as we close, guys, here's some of the players again. Devin Carter, this is a guy that supposedly made a draft promise to. Then we also have our hometown kid, Bazilis, out there. And yes, he is listed at 6'8", guys. Check that out on the Ringer. He has a 6'10" wingspan. And then also, too, guys, we also have this guy here, Mr. Edey, who is probably not as NBA ready. He is going to have to hit the speed ladder. He's going to have to hit the track and work on opening up his running gait so he can run down the court a little bit faster and shift a little bit in the pick and roll defense. But you're wondering, is he going to be a monster in the post just like this, guys? And so let me know in the comments, guys, do we take any of those 3 players that I have just shown you and listed? Are you completely sold that the Chicago Bulls have no idea what they're going to do? Or do you feel like we're just on the merry-go-round? All right, guys, once again, even though we don't know what we're doing and we're 14 days out from the NBA draft, this is Rico Greenhowe, another episode of Bulls Digest. And as usual, guys, go Bulls. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.